Now we are continuing with the nitrogen metabolism, and here we are dealing with the biological nitrogen fixation, and we described about the nodule formation in the roots, and in some cases without nodule formation also the bacteria can live on the root surface, or it can live in the upper plastics, for example in the case of sugarcane. Now, the legumes and once it is in the nodule, obviously we had already explained earlier that the oxygen availability should be very less, because that will be hindering with the nitrogenase activity. So, the availability of oxygen should be curtailed, and generally the legumes and actinorhizal plants regulate the gas permeability in their nodules, maintaining a level of oxygen within the nodule that can support only respiration. So, whatever oxygen is required for respiration is only taken inside to the nodule, and that will be immediately utilized for the respiration, and it will try to keep the oxygen level down, especially in the nodules, so as to avoid the inactivation of the nitrogenase. So, that is one of the mechanisms they try to adopt, taking what is essential only for the respiration and for the living of the bacteria and the plant tissues, and whatever rest of the oxygen is curtailed from entering into the nodule. And gas permeability increases in the light and decreases under drought or upon exposure to nitrate. So, generally the gas permeability will be increasing in the light and decreasing under drought or upon exposure to nitrate. So, this is again another mechanism of controlling the availability of the oxygen or the aerobic condition within the nodule. The nodules contain an oxygen binding hem protein called a leg hemoglobin. This is very much aware to you that the nodule have a leg hemoglobin, and the specialty of the leg hemoglobin is that even it can take up the very low oxygen what is available within the nodules and transfer it to the cells which is required for respiration. Leg hemoglobin is present in the cytoplasm of infected nodule cells at high concentrations and gives the nodules a pink color, and these phenomena are all known to you. You must have even examined the leg hemoglobin levels in the nodules in your UG classes and all. The host plant produces the globin portion of the leg hemoglobin in response to infection by the bacteria, and the bacterial symbiont produces the hem portion. So, basically leg hemoglobin is a combination of product from both the plant, the host and the bacteria. The host plant produces the globin portion of the leg hemoglobin in response to the infection by the bacteria, and the bacterial symbiont is producing the hem portion. So, these two combine and finally result in the formation of leg hemoglobin, and it has got a high affinity for oxygen and is about 10 times higher than the beta chain of human hemoglobin. So, the affinity towards the oxygen is very high in the case of leg hemoglobin, and in the case of human hemoglobin it is much lesser as compared to that of leg hemoglobin. So, I always used to, maybe it may not be practical, but I always, when I teach this particular portion, I always used to say that why can't we go and analyze the leg hemoglobin to a deeper extent and try to make such sort of a hemoglobin in the humans also, especially that may be more beneficial in the case of athletes, because they have a high affinity for oxygen, because athletes, you may be knowing that they try to get trained in a low oxygen environment and all, especially they will be getting training in high altitude regions, and because that is to increase their efficiency, especially for marathon runners and all. They require more of oxygen, and they try to maintain in their last phase of their marathon running and all with a low oxygen availability. So, I always used to think in my mind, why can't we try to study upon this particular cause. So, I try to put before you to analyze why can't we go for the development of a leg hemoglobin like hemoglobin and incorporate the same or develop the same in the human beings. That will be very much beneficial, especially in the case of athletes. Now, we go into another heading, that is the establishing symbiosis requires an exchange of signals. Generally, we may have the concept that the bacteria is present in the soil, and when the leguminous plants grow, automatically whatever bacteria is there, they come and attach to the plant roots and they develop the nodules. But you should understand that it is highly specific in nature, highly specific. The bacteria, all rhizobia will not come and colonize with any legume possible, because it will identify the correct host, and only if it is the appropriate host, then only the bacteria will come and form an association. Otherwise, the bacteria will not come near the roots of this particular legume. That is the high host specificity we call. So, in this portion we will be dealing how this specificity is attained and how plants are able, or the specific bacteria is able to identify its host and form a association with that host. Plant genes specific to nodules are called noduline genes. There specifically that is written in capital NOD, noduline genes. And rhizobial genes that participate in nodule formation are called nodulation genes. And there is the wordings are same, NOD. But if it is plant genes specific to nodules, we call it as nod itself, but with a capital N. And in the rhizobial genes, again it is nod genes, but that is with a small n. The common bacterial nod genes are nod A, nod B and nod C, and are found in rhizobial strains. They are very common. The host specific nod genes such as nod P, nod Q and nod H, or nod F, nod E and nod L differ among rhizobial species and determine the host range. So, nod A, nod B and nod C are common to any rhizobia. That does not determine the host specificity, and the nod genes which specifically determine the host specificity are nod P, nod Q, nod H, or in some cases nod F, nod E and nod L. They differ among the rhizobial species and determine the host range. And besides this category, the first category was nod A and nod B, nod C, which I told you is common for all rhizobia. The host specific is the second category what we have seen, P, nod P, Q, H, F, E, L. Besides that, we have another regulatory nod D, which is constitutively expressed, and its protein product we call it as nod D. This is, the gene is always written in italicized form, and the product of that is written in a normal form. So, the nod D synthesize a product called nod D, which regulates the transcription of other nod genes. So, only if this protein product is formed, the nod A, nod B and nod C genes gets activated. So, the expression of the first or the nod D is very important for the expression of other genes what we have already seen earlier. The first stage is migration of the bacteria towards the roots of the host plant. So, you now have an understanding of which are the genes which are involved in the nodule formation and which play a role in host specificity. Again, I can repeat to you once again, nod A and nod B, C, these are common to in all rhizobia, but the other category nod P, Q, H, F, E, L, 6. These 6 types are specialized for host specificity. And the third category comes is the nod D, which is constitutively expressed, and the product of that is essential for the expression of the other 2 categories, that is the A, B, C as well as the P, Q, H, F, E and L. Now, after understanding about this gene specialty, let us come to how the bacteria is going to find its host and specifically form a nodule. The first stage is the migration of the bacteria towards the roots of the host plant. So, immediately when the host plant germinates in the soil, maybe the all bacteria rush to that host plant. This migration is a chemotactic response, and how this migration is affected. is a chemotactic response. Means when the roots are growing, obviously the root end or the root tips is rubbing towards the soil particles which is available on the ground, and that may cause minor injuries on the root tip or the root cap, and some chemical attractants like flavonoids and betaines may get oozed out little by little, and that is the chemical attractants, and that we call it as chemotactic response. Because of this chemical attraction, because of the chemotactic attraction, the bacteria rushes towards the roots, and it is not specific now. All bacteria can together rush towards the roots. Now specificity starts from here. These attractants activate, these chemical attractants activate the rhizobial Nod D protein, and that is present in the bacteria. So when all the bacteria reaches the root, the chemical attractants activate the rhizobial Nod D protein, which induces the transcription of other Nod genes. So once Nod D gene get activated, Nod D protein is formed, and Nod D protein is responsible for the transcription of other Nod genes. You must again remember, we found that there is a ABC one category and the second category which is a host specific. The promoter region of all node aprons except that of Nod D contains a highly conserved sequence called the node box. It is a highly conserved sequence. So binding of the activated Nod D, that is a protein which is found from the Nod D gene, that protein goes and binds to the node box and induces the transcription of other Nod genes. So other Nod genes like ABC and the host specific genes are activated only after the binding of the Nod D protein onto the node box, which is a highly conserved sequence. And the other, now it is the turn of the other genes to get activated. The node factors produced by bacteria act as signal for symbiosis. The node genes activated by the Nod D code for nodulation proteins, most of which are involved in the biosynthesis of node factors. So again I am repeating, the plant grows in the soil, the root grows deep into the soil, the slight injury formed as a result of the root growth by rubbing towards the soil particles releases certain flavonoids and betaines which are chemical attractants. By this chemotactic response, the entire group of bacteria rushes towards the root, and once it reaches the root, because of the chemical constituents which is being released from the root, the Nod D gene get activated and Nod D protein is formed out of it. This Nod D protein goes and bind to the node box, and once it bind to the node box, the other genes get activated. Basically that is the ABC genes. And ABC genes, because of the activation of the Nod A, Nod B and Nod C, what happens? Node factors are synthesized. And node factors are nothing but they are lipochitin oligosaccharide signal molecules. What are they? They are lipochitin oligosaccharide signal molecules, and when you examine the structure of these signal molecules, they have a chitin beta 1 to 4 linked N-acetyl D-glucosamine backbone. You can see from here, they have a chitin beta 1 to 4 linked N-acetyl D-glucosamine backbone, and they basically have 3 to 6 sugar units. So they are a combination of 3 to 6 sugar units and a fatty acyl chain on the C2 position, that is carbon 2 position of the non-reducing sugar. So this is the basic structure of the node factors. So I again repeat, when the node genes are activated by the binding of the Nod D protein, the synthesis of node factors takes place, and these node factors are nothing but they are lipochitin oligosaccharide signal molecules, and they have a structure called chitin beta 1 to 4 linked N-acetyl D-glucosamine backbone, and they vary in length from 3 to 6 sugar units, and a fatty acyl chain on the carbon 2 position. So this is the carbon 2 position of the non-reducing sugar. This is the basic structure. Now, this structure is being synthesized by the activation of node A, node B and node C. The whole structure of this one is synthesized by the action of node A, node B and node C. Let us see one by one what is the role played by each. Node A is an N-acyl transferase. So, node A, that is the product of this gene. Node A is an N-acyl transferase that catalyzes the addition of a fatty acyl chain. That will catalyze the addition of a fatty acyl chain. And what node B does is a chitin oligosaccharide deacetylase that removes the acetyl group from the terminal non-reducing sugar. And node C is a chitin oligosaccharide synthase that links N-acetyl D-glucosamine monomers. So, these three functions of these three enzymes takes place, the product of these three genes, node A, node B and node C. As a result of that, we get the synthesis of chitin beta 1 to 4 linked N-acetyl D-glucosamine backbone and a fatty acyl chain on the carbon 2 position of this particular non-reducing sugar. So, you get the node factor synthesized by the action of ABC, and a particular legume host responds to a specific node factor. Now, the node factors are synthesized. Now, the legume starts responding, or a particular legume host responds to the node factor. The legume receptors for node factors, once the node factor is synthesized, if it is suiting to the receptor on the legume, it will come and bind to that legume. Only if this binding occurs, the bacteria can form a nodule. So, all other bacteria which may synthesize this node factor which we described earlier, but that cannot appropriately bind towards the receptor on the legume. So, which bacteria is successful in synthesizing a node factor which can bind to the receptor on the legume root, they will go ahead with the synthesis of or the formation of the nodule. So, the legume receptors for node factors appear to be special lectins. And what is the structure of these receptors on the legume? They are nothing but they are lectins. So, the specificity of the binding of the lectins to the node factors determine the host specificity, and accordingly only that particular strain, that particular genera of Rhizobium comes and form a association with the legume. Node factors activate these lectins, increasing their hydrolysis of phosphoanhydride bonds of nucleoside di and triphosphates, and finally have a successful association. This lectin activation directs particular rhizobia to appropriate host and facilitates attachment of the rhizobia to the cell walls. So, this lectin activation is basically directing a particular rhizobia to an appropriate host and facilitating the attachment of the rhizobia to the cell walls of a root hair. And since it is a bit complicated, I will repeat the whole process once again for your better understanding. Once the legume is germinating in the soil, the roots are protruded, and once the roots go into the soil, certainly the soil particles cause injury onto the roots. Based on this injury, certain chemicals ooze out. Basically, they are flavonoids and betaines. Because of this chemical attractants, whatever rhizobacteria present in the soil rush towards, because of this chemical attractants. There is an attraction for the rhizobia towards these chemicals, they rush towards the roots. But reaching the roots, what happens is that because of this chemicals what is oozing out, the bacterial gene, the first bacterial gene to get activated is node D gene. The product of that is node D. It's a protein and it's a factor which can go and bind to node box. And the binding of node D protein to node box can activate the other genes like A, B, C. And the activation of A, B, C will culminate in the synthesis of 3 different enzymes which is responsible for the synthesis of node factors. These node factors is basically responsible for binding towards the receptor which is available on the legume roots, and these receptors are nothing but lectins. Based on the specificity of the lectin and that of the node factor synthesized by the bacteria, they bring about an association, or the binding will be perfect. Once the binding would be perfect, that bacteria alone will form an association, and all other bacteria, even if they have produced the node factors, they cannot come and bind towards the lectin which is present on the legume, and they will not be successful in bringing about an association. So, this is how an association of bacteria takes place with that of or rhizobia takes place with that of the legume. Next topic what we are going to see is regarding the infection process during nodule organogenesis, and it will be more better you can understand from this picture. Here you can see that rhizobia will be available just outside the root hair, and I already explained to you how which rhizobia would be efficient in binding to the root hair, and the process we already described earlier based on the nod genes. And once it is successful, you can see that the whole bacteria or the rhizobia which is successful would be surrendered, or they will be surrounded with the curling of the root hair. And after that you can see the bacteria will be making an entry into the root, and an infection thread will proceed through the root hair, and the infection will reach to the first cell, and with the help of the Golgi bodies, the vesicular structures are formed, and finally you can see that infection thread membrane is fusing with the cell membrane, and you can see that the infection thread is spreading out into the inner tissues also, and after it is spread out into the inner tissues, the vesicle containing rhizobia is synthesized. These are the vesicles which are being delivered, and finally that will culminate in the synthesis of a nodule within the plant. So, this is what is happening, and let us see step by step what is exactly happening. The rhizobia bind to an emerging root hair in response to chemical attractants sent by the plant. This we have already seen in the last slide. In response to factors produced by the bacteria, the root hair exhibits abnormal curling growth, and rhizobia cells proliferate within the coils. So, that coils we have already seen, this is the coils what I already told, and the bacteria would be proliferating over there. Localized degradation of the root hair wall leads to infection and formation of the infection thread from Golgi secretory vesicles of root cells. The infection thread reaches the end of the cell, and its membrane fuses with the plasma membrane of the root hair cell. That is the next step. And fifth step, that is the E, rhizobia are released into the apoplast and penetrate the compound middle lamella to the subepidermal cell plasma membrane, leading to the initiation of a new infection thread which forms an open channel with the first. And the sixth step you can see the infection thread extends and branches until it reaches the target cells, where vesicles composed of plant membranes that enclose bacterial cells are released into the cytosol. So, these these are the 6 different steps of the nodular formation, and after the nodule formation is complete, the nitrogen fixation process initiates, and you must have learned that for the nitrogen fixation, the nitrogenase enzyme plays a greater role. We have already seen that nitrogenase is highly sensitive towards oxygen, and hence the oxygen curtailment is very essential for the activity of the nitrogenase, and that is achieved in the case of nodules by the action of leg hemoglobin, which can even take up the low oxygen penetrating inside and take it to the cells, mitochondria, for the respiratory purpose. So, no oxygen is left for inactivating the nitrogenase. So, that way nitrogenase is kept free, or its activity could be maximized. So, that is a specialty of like hemoglobin inside the nodule. So, we will end this session for the time being, and in the next section we will learn more about the activity of nitrogenase enzyme and its complexing with the nitrogen, and fixation of nitrogen taking place, and the formation of ammonia, that we will be seeing detail in the next session.